Another day at the Frye property. Rat Patrol.
So you got to watch the Smashing Machine?
Yeah. It was saw the Smashing Machine with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and Boss Rutan. And, all the actors did a good job. You hated the girl. You hated her. And, of course, I know more about her than, the typical person does. But pretty spot on. Dwayne Johnson did a great job being Mark. The makeup, transformation, the voice, his movement. The way he fought and moved, that was spot on. And Boss just stole the show. He phenomenal actor. He wasn't even acting no more. All he had to do was memorize the lines and just be himself. Is what they tell you to do, anyways. But yeah, the acting is good. The filming, the script, and I like film. I don't like this new shit. I like film, like the look of film. And this is just too clear, too bright and too clear. And I thought that the movie script was real slow. Storyline was real slow, and just drug on. If it wasn't for the actors, it would have been a real shit fest. But everybody in it acting, they were spot on. They did a great job.
So you actually know who the girl was in real life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard. Heard. I don't think I ever met her. I might have met her once briefly, but yeah, I know that there's, guys who knew her weren't particularly fond of her.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mark is actually from Phoenix, right?
Yeah, that's where he lives there now. I don't know where he was originally. I think he's from back east somewhere. I think he wrestled in New York or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You ever get any training with him out in Arizona? Or no?
Nah, he came down one time with Brock Lesnar
Hmm.
because Brock's cousin Brad Reagans broke me into pro wrestling. We're good buds, and so Brock came out, but he came out and saw the strength conditioning coach for the Cardinals that he was buddies with from when he tried out for the Vikings. And then that guy hooked him up with Kerr, and Kerr came down with him and just got in the way of the workout. And I think he's pretty looped out of his mind.
Mm-hmm.
But my fault. I allowed him to get away with it. I should have said, shut the it was my gym. But I allowed it to happen, so nobody can be blamed but me. And then Lesnar kept him, and they went back to Lesnar's place, and I guess Kerr fell off the wagon a few times while he was over there. Caused little problems in the camp. But, I did a autograph signing with Kerr a month or two ago in Vegas. Turned out he's a pretty good guy, Because when I really said what I said, Coleman called me up. I says, lay off Kerr, he's a good guy, He's one of us. Then when I met him, he's a pretty good guy. I like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not too many run-ins back in Japan or even in the UFC. Nothing really, right?
No, I never met him. No, first time.
Yeah. And what do you think about how they portrayed the Pride executives and the team and all that sort of stuff?
I thought they went soft on them. You know, they're a little bit more sleazy.
Oh.
You know, the promoters of Pride, a little bit more sleazy. Yeah, can't trust them for anything.
And Coleman was in the film. Ryan Bader played him.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think about that? His role.
I didn't know, you know, who Vader was at first, you know, but then when you heard him refer to him as Coleman, that made sense. You know, he did a pretty good job being Mark. He need to be a little bit more intense. Mark's a real intense guy.
Right.
Yeah, and Vader was a little too mellow for him. You know, but besides that, he did a good job.
That was the chill Mark Coleman, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that story, like how unique was it? I mean, were a lot of guys dealing with, a lot of pain and, maybe borderline addiction issues and
Oh,
women
everybody
issues?
was. Everybody had women issues. Yeah. You get a woman involved with money, and it's all downhill. You know, it's all about them, all about their security and themselves, and they'll ruin, they'll ruin a good thing. I don't understand it.
So is it just better to stay single during those years, those fighting years, or how do you find one that you can,
You can't find one. Can't find one you trust. Nah. They're all about themselves, like I said, and their own security, and they'll ruin everybody else's happiness just so they can find their happiness, which most of them are incapable of ever being happy, no matter what the they get, and what they have. I think they could have went in that movie. They could have went a little deeper into the addiction. They kind of breezed over the addiction. You didn't really know what the problem was. That there was one. It just, you just thought it was all, just the fight and the woman. And they didn't. If you didn't know Mark's backstory, you wouldn't know. I wouldn't have known there was an addiction problem.
Mm-hmm.
They hit it a couple of times when he was asking the doctor, for some drugs, but they didn't cover it like it needed to be covered, because that was the main reason, for his downfall,
Right.
that and the woman, oh, they're both just as dangerous as the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they had a decent amount of the drug stuff in there, I'd say, no? I mean, like, he had that press conference moment where he was out for a while and he came back and he was in the hospital where, I guess he kind of maybe OD'd or something, like they found him on the floor and he was in the hospital. Coleman came to see him.
Right.
Like those scenes,
Right.
It was more like a down, like a sad, movie, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't really touch too much upon
His success.
Yeah, right?
Right.
That's what I thought, but
Right. He could, because he's a really successful fighter.
right.
And they could have hit it more, and that would have shown the fall greater,
Right. Didn't show it, the highs as much as
Right.
the lows there,
Right. Right.
And how it ended, I think, with that 2000 Grand Prix, the Coleman one,
Yeah.
and then Mark was just kind of there and lost, and kind of just ended, right?
Right. Yeah. It wasn't. Didn't tie it up. It didn't tie up successfully. The ending.
Yeah.
Then with them showing him in the grocery store at the end.
Yeah.
And by everybody, that was a shit finish. That was just a shit finish.
Yeah. I found that a little strange too.
Right. Trainers, Boss Root and Coleman, yeah.
Yeah.
They were the high parts of the movie.
Did you find anything relatable about it to your own journey there or time there? With the woman or behind the scenes stuff? Or...
Yeah, the woman and the drugs, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, understood all that aspects of that shit,
Yeah.
Oh, there's no arguments. I never broke anything. Never lost my cool like that. Nothing. So that was That was a pretty good scene where he put his elbow through the door and ripped it off the hinges. But yeah, when she broke that bowl, I understood that. You know, my ex-wife did shit like that.
Is there anyone else in the movie you think that, during that time or probably could have added a lot to it? Another character, or person, or moments around that time?
No, but they could have went against the opponents a little bit more. You know, showed how more dangerous the opponents were. You know, to show you know Mark's opponents as being dangerous and and when he beat them, it really meant something. I mean, for what they showed, he beat them and it didn't mean anything. They just happened to be they were there and then gone. You know, they didn't have a build up. Like Rocky 3.
Yeah.
When Mr. T, they build him up real big good. And that was a great build up, so to where you were interested in the fight. And you had a good storyline. They just brought him in, moved him out, moved him out.
Right. Because, I mean, all those people, all those fighters, I mean, it's not just, these Joe Blows here today, gone tomorrow. A lot of them were, a lot of these guys are pioneers or household names or tough guys.
Oh, yeah, they were champions, world champions,
Yeah.
national champions in their own nation, country. And then world champions. And then, they were big names over there in Japan in the fight organization. Well, you didn't get the sense of that,
Right.
They could have told a little bit more story about how tough a tournament is. How the difficulties of fighting more than once a night and moving along, and the injuries, because you never come out of a fight unscathed, and even physically, if you're unscathed physically, you're still have a little damage mentally and emotionally, from the build up to the fight.
At the beginning of the movie, I saw your name get dropped there. Don Frye, Dan Severn. I think there was someone else in there they mentioned, but
Yeah, Mark Coleman. They mentioned Dan Coleman and myself. Yeah,
right at the start there, right?
yeah,
Was that surprising?
yeah. It was surprising. Yeah, but I guess they were quoting somebody.
Right.
They were quoting Kerr's trainer. He had worked with us, and the guy wasn't a trainer. He just owned a set of keys to a gym. That's all it was. He was no trainer.
Where was that, Jim?
That was in Phoenix.
Phoenix, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that guy couldn't train his way out of the toilet,
Did they ever ask you about being in the movie or about the movie or?
No, not a thing. Not a thing. I found out about it like everybody else, 5 years ago or however long it's been on the shelf.
Would you have had any interest in being a part of that movie?
No, I wasn't part of that. I was doing pro wrestling at the time over there in Japan, so that wasn't my era, I did, 96, I did the UFC, had 10 fights in the UFC in that 1 year, and then, had 11 fights because I had a fight in Japan also. And then I did 4 years of professional wrestling for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then September 2001, I got back in the fight game. A couple weeks after 9/11. I was out of the sport at that time.
So you went from UFC to pro wrestling.
Yeah, New Japan Pro Wrestling, yeah.
To New Japan. And, that was a dream of yours to be a pro wrestler, right?
Right. Yeah, I grew up, watching Ric Flair and Terry Funk and Bruno Sammartino and superstar Billy Graham, watching them guys and, always wanted to have a belt and be a world champion. And so I got my belt in the world championship, in the UFC, and then they called me up, they were looking for an MMA fighter that, had a name they could trust. So Brad Reagan's called me up, or no, I'm sorry. New Japan called Brad Reagan's because Brad was like their American recruiter, trainer. And Brad called Jeff Blatnick up because they had trained for the Olympics a couple of times, together. And so then Jeff recommended me, God bless him. And then Brad called me up and we met. They flew me up to Minnesota. And I met, Brad Reagans, Masa Saito, Antonio Inoki, Fujita and Ogawa. And we just all hit it off. It all went pretty good. So they hired me, and then I ended up doing Antonio Inoki's retirement match the following year, which I turned into a shit show because 2 minutes in, I broke 3 of his ribs. Yeah. Yeah, 30, 40-year career, it's supposed to be 30, 40-minute match, and I tear it up in 2 minutes. So it only went, he only went for about 4.5 minutes because he couldn't work it that long.
It's quite a way to go out, huh?
Yeah, I ruined his career. Shit.
Do you remember how or when he broke the ribs?
Yeah, I did a double leg, got him up top, and had him across my back, and I jumped backwards and landed on him. Yeah, doing something I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and
A lot of people think pro wrestling's fake, but it's not fake. It's predetermined. It's not
yeah,
fake.
right. I mean, I broke my neck for the second time doing that.
Yeah.
Shit. Then I screwed up my back doing it. So it's you get more injuries in pro wrestling than you do in the fight game. Because in the fight game, you're protecting yourself, and you know that a guy's coming after you to hurt you. Whereas in pro wrestling, you're giving your body to the other guy, and you're depending on him to protect you. And I was the wrong one for that sport.
So you did that, and now you're seeing people making a bunch of money and pride and all that kind of stuff, and you're thinking, forget the pro wrestling, let me get back over there.
Yeah, I saw Coleman win the Grand Prix and hurt my ego because, he beat me, and he was the only one that ever beat me. And I woke up sick that day, and it just got worse as the night went along. And when he beat me, I just, I fixated on it. I watched that fight every day for years, until I was able to get a rematch. And then come rematch time, he was married with 2 girls. I was married to 2 girls. He was having problems with his wife. I was having problems with my wife. So I humanized him, and put myself in his shoes. And, you never want to humanize your opponent in a fight game. Never. And that's what happened. I humanized him, and I just didn't go out there to win. Because I knew with my ego, I figured, well, I can lose and they'll call me back, but if he loses, they're not going to call him back ever, so, he beat me again, so I can't say I threw the match, but I just didn't try, didn't put any effort into it. Plus I had a bum shoulder, so that he got hold of that and made it worse.
So you saw him and you just wanted a piece of what he was getting there.
Yeah, like I said, it hurt my ego, and I saw the money, and I thought, shit, this should have been my belt, and should have just stayed with the pro wrestling, and I should have learned how to do it better.
Is that what you think?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I had a fun time fighting for pride, I guess, I had the greatest fight ever, shit. against Takayama. So everybody watches. Still gets millions of views every year.
Yeah.
More people watch that than they watch Tyson. So I guess everything turned out good for me.
Yeah.
When I fought Yoshihiro Takayama. That was supposed to be my rematch against Coleman. So, I'd gone to Hawaii and trained there for 3 or 4 weeks at BJ Penn's place, And, well, there's the rain.
Yeah.
Then Coleman got hurt, so said my prayers for him. Took a couple days off and then got back into it, the training, So I was in great shape when I fought Takayama, Great shape.
Do you think if Coleman didn't win that Grand Prix, you probably would have never went to Pride?
Probably, yeah. Would have stayed with pro wrestling, yeah. Unless they fired me, which could have been a possibility, after breaking the ribs of the owner,
Was there ever an opportunity or anything to go back to UFC at any point, during or after Pride?
No, they never called me. I know when they first bought, for Tita's and White first bought UFC, they brought me in to interview me. I guess they brought a bunch of guys in, And so I'm sitting there at the table with Joe Silva, Dana White, and the Fertitta brothers. And they said, well, do you see yourself in UFC? What would you want to do? So, not knowing what the hell was going on, I didn't know Silva was a matchmaker. So I said, I should be the matchmaker. Nobody knows this sport better than me. There I am in front of him trying to get his job. I didn't know that at all. Felt like an ass. Anyways, after about an hour interviewing, they showed me the door,
When was that roughly, you think?
I don't know.
Idea?
I have no idea.
You were still fighting at the time?
No, I was doing pro wrestling, I think. I think it's 2000, 2001.
So it was right before you went to Pride?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They probably wanted to hear you wanted to fight and be the best and be a champion. You're like, yeah, just let me take this guy's job.
Right.
Kind of bored of getting punched. I'd rather just sit behind the scenes and pull some strings, huh?
Yeah.
Like, we want you to want blood. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you're a show pony. You're not you're not an office boy.
Yeah.
You're a pit dog. And Joe Silva, hell, he made some great fights, great matches, Nobody could have done the job better, Joe. Amazing job he did.
As UFC started to grow and transition to the machine that it is, did you ever want to fight in kind of that newer era UFC? Was there ever an interest? Like, I'm pretty sure Coleman I think he fought Randy, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
The newer UFC, you could call it, whatever.
Right.
Did you ever have any interest in fighting in that promotion?
No.
No?
I was over there in Pride and happy with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were paying me good money. And I like Japan, love Japan.
Was it tough being over in Japan for those, extended periods of time and going back and forth?
Yeah. One year I worked 25 weeks there, that was right after my second daughter was born. So that was tough because, I'd go over there for 2 or 3 weeks, 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then come back and get acclimated and, and there's time to go back, so I was worn out that year. But, had a good time. I missed my babies. That was the worst thing about it all, was missing my children. But they were the reason I was doing it, secure them a future. But that all got lost in the divorce.
Was it like the late 90s you had kids?
No, 2000, 2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's right about when you're finishing New Japan and going to Pride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do the girls have any memories about your dad in Japan or being there?
I don't think so. I took them twice, and they don't remember the first time because they were way too young the first time. But the second time they have memories of, you know. But they had never seen me fight. Hell, they didn't even know what the hell I did for a living
Yeah.
until a few years back when my buddy Brian Pope asked him, "Do you know who your dad is? What he did?" Nope. So he sat him down and showed him some fights. Impressed Cassie didn't give a fuck. You know,
What about now? Do you have any thoughts on it, or kind of the same?
I don't know. I think it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, Katie's a competitor. You know, she's a competitive pole dancer, not a professional, but a competitive. You know, and so she knows what it's like to train. You know, put in the hours and the hard work. Cassie's just still floating along through life. She'll get it together eventually. You know, she was doing the barrel racing with Puzzle there, but then the divorce ruined everybody's life.
And when did you move into this house here?
I bought it back in October of '97. Yeah, and then I was kicked out of it during the divorce, and then she's gonna try and lowball sell it, you know, and I said, okay, I'll buy it for that, you know, for that much. So, yeah, so I bought the same house twice. Well, like I said, you know, everybody still watches that fight between Takayama-san and I, you know. Everything else, you know, there are a lot of other fights people forget, but not that one. Once you see that fight, you never forget it. It's something you watch repeatedly. It wasn't for, you know, if it wasn't for Takayama-san, it wouldn't have happened, and nobody else could have fought like that. Only him.
So that fight kind of made everything worth it, huh? All
Yeah.
the trials, tribulations, ups and downs. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that fight and my Ken Shamrock fight, you know, I had fought Ken earlier that year, and that fight was going to be fight of the year. But then when the Takayama fight come along, that became fight of the year, you know. Those two fights, then UFC 9 against Amari Bitesh, that was a hell of a fight, you know. And UFC 10 where I lost to Coleman, that was a hell of a fight. So I've had, you know, 4 real good fights that are real memorable, you know. I'm sure, you know, Akibono, that was a good fight. That was a tough one.
who would you say hit the hardest out of everyone?
Jerome LeBanner. I fought LeBanner. That was a stupid move on my part, you know. Went in there on pills. Yeah, didn't even train for that fight. I was just stealing money. It was after the Takayama fight, and I'd quit. But then they called me up and said, "We want you to fight." And I said, "No, I'm retired." Hung up the phone. And they called up, "We want you to fight." "No, retired." Hung up. And then they said, "We'll give you this much money." "No, retired." They called up again. "We'll give you this money." "All right, I'll think about it." And then they called up and, "Okay, I'll do it." I shouldn't have. But bought my ex-wife a couple of houses. Set her up pretty good.
Banner was tough, huh?
Oh my God, was he tough. Jeez. Like hitting that block wall and getting hit by a pickup truck, you know? I had no business being in there on pills, you know?
I think he's still fighting to this day.
I'm sure he is a hell of an athlete. Hell of an athlete.
What hurt more, his punches or the fact he lost to a French guy?
Yeah, losing to a French guy is embarrassing. I up there, I was at that WrestleMania autograph thing. Some guys from France were there, and they said, "Yeah, we bet on you." I was like, "Oh, great, great." Talk about letting the whole world down.
How was the betting culture back then? I mean, now it's so popular, betting and gambling on sports. It's crazy. Back then, was it as big as it was, or was it more underground?
I don't know. I think it's more underground, person to person. Yeah, I, I was just so focused on the fight, and the whole world could have burnt down, and I would have known it, because I was just focused on the fight. And if you want any behind the scenes stories, you got to ask my teammates.
Yeah.
They're the ones that were paying attention, not me.
Who was your best, training or sparring partner that you got a lot of good work in with?
Oh hell, I had Sam Sotelo, Rainy Martinez, Rich Moreno, um, Jeff. I can't remember Jeff's last name right now. Fuck. John Foley. I had some real good guys. A guy named Danny Fakir. He was a good one because he was an All-American wrestler from ASU. So he was real handy. And he was unmarried and unemployed at the time. So, he dedicated all his time to it, And I paid him back by getting him on New Japan Pro Wrestling, So he did that for a couple of years.
So is it a tight knit, training group, sparring partners, coaching? You never really veered too much outside of that for training or with other gyms or other maybe competitors at the time. You kind of stuck to yourself with your team.
Yeah, stuck with my own guys. Yeah, we'd have new guys come in, but they'd come in for a few workouts and then be gone. Because when we trained hard. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Rainy Martinez, he was a former SEAL, so he doesn't think I trained hard and I trained enough. You can never make that guy happy.
Right.
And he's probably right. I probably could have trained a lot harder. What are you doing, pretty boy? What are you doing? What are you doing, handsome horse? Huh? Come here. Come here. Funk. Come here, Funk. Okay, go away. Get some water. Good boy. You never know, the horse. One day they're like a cat. You can't get them come to you for anything. Another day they're like a dog, man. You can't get them off of you. Beautiful animals. Beautiful.
You wish you spent maybe a little bit more time working with horses during that period, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a farrier for 7 years, so I did that, and then I had a beautiful stallion. I bred him for a few years. A beautiful horse. Beautiful horse. Buried over there. I miss that guy every day. I got another horse, 2 more horses buried over here. Yeah, Guy, he was a great horse, man. He was a stag, and like a proud cut, So he was a gelding, but he thought he was a stallion, because he was cut late in life. He was a good horse. Shit. I've been blessed. I've had good horses, man. They all had the mark of Muhammad on them. The story that Muhammad had all of his horses and I don't know, fucking 5,000, 50,000, I don't know, but he went through there with a can of paint, stuck his thumb in the paint, and on the good horses, he'd either mark them on the butt or the neck, So you can see the mark on Puzzle over there on his butt, All my horses have had that.
What's the most you had at one time here?
6.
No.
It gets a little expensive.
We need the fighting paychecks for that.
Yeah. Fighting to feed the horses, yeah. That'll motivate you. Yeah, I'd be out here hitting the bag, and they'd just stand here watching, you know. At first they were a little froggy about it, but then they got used to it, you know.
And what about breeds? I mean, you have a favorite?
Quarter horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, quarter horse. Yeah, Arab, Arabian horses, they wake up in a new world every day, man. They're fucking insane. They're pretty, but man, they're these skittish. Yeah. Secure this. Horses are smart.
Or actually, maybe a quarter or 5.
Yeah. Come on, Quinn. Let's go. Just gotta take a step towards it. Come on, let's go. Come on. Come on. Good girl. Good girl.